A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there was a podcast called Blink. We've been missing, we've been busy, but now we're back to save the empire, save you from the evil empire of business downturn and gloom. Welcome back to Blink. Hello again and welcome back. Who is this man in a bright coloured shirt? For those who are listening, Darren has a very flowery shirt for the first day of spring.
That's right. And that's what I thought I'd do, you see. And also, too, my Aunt Mavis was pulling down some curtains and she said, Darren, how about a shirt?
I have no doubt that they are Mavis's curtains. Look at that.
Oh,
Look at that. Yeah, it's well worth heading over to the YouTube channel, folks. Blink, BL-INK, just to have a look at the shirt. Although I will take a screenshot and post it on the socials somewhere. So you'll catch it. It's the spring shirt. Mate, it has been a minute.
Crazy.
Where have you been?
I've been booked out of my blooming diary, man. It's been out of control. So over the last 4 weeks, I've been booked 16 times. It's been crazy, man. Crazy.
But what about the fans? So what you're saying is you've chosen money over the good, loyal listeners of this podcast.
I've been actually out in the marketplace with the fans, with my people who are avid listeners to this podcast. And they're the ones that bloody get on here and they listen, they take notes. And then they say to me, Darren, bloody Jonathan said this. How the hell do you apply that? And I put my hands in the air and I go, I've got no bloody idea how you'd apply that. But that's part of the game, right? It's just keep using our expertise to be able to get the best business info from Blink. I think it's really cool, mate. It's good to be back.
You've been out meeting the people. And what is the mood of the market last night, Mr. Man of the People? The Prince of Ponkaringa or some other funny name over there in New Zealand?
Do you want to know?
Yeah. Tell me.
It's not good.
Oh, really?
What's
to be sad about?
Economic climate over here has gone really quite tough. So we're still dredging through the economic downturn that we've sort of been experiencing. We are also in the dreaded excuse mode of an election, which is due very shortly. And man, that is just having such an effect. And also, we still got a lot of people that are waiting for the market to get better or waiting for the customer to call and waiting for things to happen. And to be honest, mate, it's just that apathy and that inability to get moving is actually really hurting a lot of businesses right now over here. So it's been quite challenging, eh?
Yeah, I got a feel for you because, for the good people of New Zealand, because there is that impact of elections, particularly federal ones. I'm not sure if you've got a federation over there, but yours are like local council elections compared to...
we're just national.
You just have one national body, which is probably good. 2 levels of government. Is that all you got?
Yep.
Yeah, we need to get rid of one. I think that's good. But it just gives people another excuse not to do something.
Yep.
And so they wait. And in this current market, we've already been through a big period of waiting because of interest rate rises and cost of living and inflation and bouncing back from COVID. And now we've got COVID we're working in reverse here. And so now you guys are just about to get going again.
Yep.
And everything's on hold because of an election.
Yep. And this is the part we've got right now, right? You said the word, right? It's an excuse because everybody, I've got lots of real estate agents that I've been working with, doing a lot of focus on making calls, getting connected with their marketplace and all of that. And guess what? The standard response they're getting from their customers is, we're going to wait till after the election, And it's been like, oh, Darren, maybe that's not time to make the calls. And I'm like, man, it's really important for us right now to be actually connecting with the audience, getting a really good understanding of what the customer's doing, what they're thinking, how you can support the decision-making process, rather than just expecting that it's just a buy signal, right? At this time, it's not. But you have to work with your clients to generate the opportunities.
There aren't too many products in the world that run businesses, that don't need to continually be in demand.
Yeah.
In real estate, cars, recruitment, there's always a demand. Now, my
100%.
feeling on that is if the demand is put on pause because of whatever external factors are going on, at some point the dam's going to break and there'll be a rush.
100%.
Right? So
100%.
if that's what you're agreeing to, and I think that happens, and in fact we're seeing it right now.
Yeah.
Spring's landed, and all of a sudden, because it's the 1st of September, because the flowers are coming out, everyone now wants to sell their house where a week ago you couldn't get them to do it. It's madness, right?
Yep.
So if I was an agent, and we love talking real estate, I think it's our favourite topic, I'd be using the downtime. When's the election? How many weeks or couple weeks?
Yeah, October.
I'd be using that time to make relationships and connections with as many people as possible, because guess what happens? If you do it right, when the flood wall comes down, you're going to have the biggest bucket.
You're 1,000% right, mate. That's exactly it. And this is the hard part. And this is the bit that I wanted to talk about today, because there seems to be this immediate, something's going to, I'm going to make a phone call. I'm going to make 10 calls and I'm instantly going to get work out of it, or I'm instantly going to get business out of it. And right now it's the time to do that spade work and to put that work in. And I think it's just so critical we get out of this mode of, look, I've made 5 calls, I haven't got any business, the world's ending. It's actually that, hey, this is the time to plow in to the soil, the manure, the seeds, and get ready for the germination in spring. And you've got to have done that pre-work before you get the success. And I think you are so right about making sure you've got that plan to connect with as many and more people as you can.
So what we're seeing is career-driven people who are so finicky about what they do that if they're not instantly gratified by the effort that they put in, they're prepared to throw it all out.
And that's the
Where's
piece,
the resilience gone?
Well, this is the challenge, right? And I'm looking at it going, I've got some of what I would consider to be the best talented newbies into some of these industries, like best talent, right? Incredible. But because they haven't got the $400,000 or $500,000 income and the Maserati and the membership to the local country club, because that hasn't all happened straight away, they're feeling like, well, I'm a failure. Maybe this industry isn't for me. And I'm like, well, just no. Like, this is the time where doing the work you're doing is going to bear the long-term opportunity and the fruit for you as a really successful agent or automotive sales or whatever industry sector you're in. And I think it's really important just to be understanding that it's not all going to be bearing skittles all the time.
No, so we're going to get into a document or a process that you've developed. It's wonderful. It's called the Sales Self-Assessment, ABC of Business. It's got 8 steps. We're going to walk you through that, folks. We're going to give you the self-assessment piece that gets you from where you're stuck right now, if you're feeling the way that we're describing, and sharpening yourself up so you get out there and moving. But there's a couple of things I want to add before we get to that, based on what we just had. If we talk about this instant gratification and the letdown of not getting the results that you want, then that's got a lot to do with the stories that you're telling yourself.
Yep. Well done, mate. Yeah, very good.
It's really got to do with the stories you're telling yourself. I deal with a guy who's very, very, very successful over here. Like, he's got B's in the bank, not M's.
Yeah.
And he says to me, if it takes me 100 calls to get the business, I'll make 100 calls.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm lucky and it takes me 20, it's a good day. Right. But if it takes me 150, I'll still make the 150. Like, he doesn't cap it. He doesn't have it set. The first thing he'll say is comparison is the thief of joy. I think that's a pretty common one that everyone knows. Stop comparing yourself to others.
Yeah.
But the one that I like, particularly if you're in that scenario and you're getting let down by calls and people saying no, I think there's two things you got to do. You got to reassess what you're actually saying in the calls and what you're sharing with them, and whether you're giving them enough information in order for them to make an informed decision.
Totally.
Because like all businesses, like we just said, all businesses, there's always a demand, and at some stage it'll break. But also there'll be a half step away market. There are people there who will be thinking about it, but are scared. And in this moment, in this time, and we see it in Australia too, I think we see it everywhere, inflation, interest rates, uncertainty. Yeah. You know, Australia's going to vote on a voice for the Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander people. What's that going to do?
Yes, true.
Right? You guys have got a national election. Which side of politics is going to get in? So that creates all this uncertainty. So there's all these narratives that are causing confusion. It's up to the salesperson not to close the deal, but to provide these half-step away market people the information they need to be able to make a confident decision, so they actually enter the cycle and they'll go to the person who's helped them make that decision because they'll trust you.
That's it. That's it. The podcast is over, mate. That's it. That piece there sums up. And I tell you, this is the bit where just those key points that you've made there are absolutely critical, right? That's exactly where the market's at the moment, and you've just absolutely crystallized those right down to the perfect, because understanding that those half away purchases actually need a conversation, and it's got to be more than just, do you want to buy or not? You've got to be able to have a conversation exactly about timing, what's their motivation, what's the purpose of the purchase, understanding why they're needing it, when they need it, how they need it delivered, all of that stuff in terms of the wider conversation before you're ever going to get anyone to say yes. And I think it's so important that you just grab hold of those key points and really understand how you are mentally approaching each one of them. Great work, mate.
How about this one? Hey, hi there, I'm Jonathan. I'm from Creeks Real Estate. I'm the #1 agent with the best local knowledge in the patch. Oh, really? Okay, good job. Like, that's what we're dealing with. I know we laugh, but that's what we're dealing with. So, I had to do it. But when we get back to the people taking the phone calls and them being disappointed because they're not getting the gratification, there's a formula that I love, and if I ever get a tattoo, this is going to be the tattoo that I get, much to Mrs. Creek's chagrin. And it's this. It's a formula that they have to adjust in their own minds before they make the calls.
Yeah.
And happiness equals expectations over reality.
Nice.
That's it. So if you're on the phone calls and you're not happy with the response you're getting, your expectations are not lined up with reality.
Yep.
Just adjust it.
Yep.
Move on. Keep going. Don't stop. Don't catastrophize a disaster. We've just been through a pandemic.
Move on.
You were crying 2 years ago about the fact you couldn't go outside. Guess what you can do today? You can go outside.
Yeah, 100%.
You can ring people. You can knock on their doors. You can use every tool in your toolkit, and it doesn't matter that there's an election coming up.
So. Very good, mate. Love it.
Shuffle on, folks. Let's get it
done. Let's go.
All right, let's move on to Darren's ABC of business sales self-assessment. And I'm going to speak out of turn here. I'm sure that if you message Darren privately, he would send you a copy of this.
For sure.
You would?
Yeah, of course. I think we should put it in I'm happy to put this in the
notes.
In the notes.
Show notes.
Yep.
Do we have show notes? We must be able to have show notes. We'll work it out, folks. There'll be a link. What are you going to charge them for this?
Nothing.
Oh, all right. It's a freebie.
And the reason why is because right now I reckon this is something that and I've been using this with different businesses at the moment, is just getting people to have a bit of an understanding about if things are not going well or things are not as good as they want, or they feel like they're getting beaten up by the competitor, or there's a new player coming to town, or all of that sort of stuff is happening. And then there's a bit of, oh my goodness, what do we do? Is just to take a stop for a moment and go, actually, let's just do a self-assessment in the areas of what will make you successful, the areas you need to have going well to make you successful, and then do a self-assessment on them. And then the trick to this is then do an assessment against what's best practice or industry lead, who the leaders are in the industry sector, compare where you're at, where you think they're at. And all of a sudden, it's a really great way to be able to give you some clarity about where you should be working or investing time and resources in your business.
So really, you're holding up a mirror to find the chinks in your own armor.
Yep, but you're comparing that because a lot of the times we say, oh, I'm doing the best I can, I'm doing really well, I'm really working hard, and I'm not getting the results. And you go, yep, well, that's great, but let's compare that to industry best practice, or let's compare that to other competitors in the marketplace that you know of, and then start to get a bit of an idea about what are the areas that we need to spend some extra time or focus on, because some of these you might be the best. You might already be able to go, hey, I'm a 10. Right? Well, that's wicked, but there'll be some areas that you go, well, maybe a 5 or a 6, and I'll give you some ideas about the scoring in a minute.
Used to be a 10, now I'm a 5 or a 6.
Never.
Now, because here's the thing, this is what I love, you know what I love about this, and I'm so glad you brought this up for this episode, is I love this because, and I think I'm guilty of this in the past, is if you're good at one bit, you'll keep doing that, and you'll avoid the bits that you're bad at.
Yep.
And also, there's nowhere to hide after this.
No, that's right. And the other part that really is telling when you do this as well is sometimes there'll be areas that you do really well, and you'll tell everybody that, man, I'm so good at this because I've got these 1 or 2 or 3 areas that I'm really good at. But when you look at the rest of them, those are all sort of 4s and 5s, and those are the ones that actually are causing you the grief in terms of being more successful. So, you tell everybody I'm doing great because you're doing good in a couple of areas, but we have to be more consistent across all 8.
All right. Hit me with number 1. Let's go.
Number 1 is database. So making sure we have volume and accuracy. So what I mean by that is that you, number 1, have a database. Number 2, that it's big enough. So you've got enough volume or size of your database. And then the last one for that is accuracy, that the data that you have in your system is actually accurate. Because as someone said to me a long time ago, that data in a database actually goes moldy over time. And what happens is your data gradually grows mold and turns into blue cheese if you don't keep the calling going and making sure that you're updating it with the client's change of circumstances or data or phone numbers or whatever. You've got to make sure that you keep that current. So just what I want you to do is to say, okay, think about your database in your business. Is it big enough, and is the data accurate? And basically giving yourself a score from 1 to 10. 10, it's maybe 2.5 to 3,000 is a good target number for most industries. So we need to have the size of the industry sector to be big enough, but then also knowing that the accuracy of the data is really good. So when you send out a communication or you send out some information to that network, you don't get too many bounce backs, or when you do make your calls, you're not getting wrong numbers or disconnected numbers. So it's a great way to sort of do that as a bit of a self-assess.
And of course, you can buy moldy data too.
Yep.
LinkedIn's full of people prepared to sell you moldy data.
Totally. And there's a lot of it around, right? Because nowadays, how fast does a lot of this data change? And nowadays it's about us, actually really having some resource in your business to make sure your data and there's enough of it, but also that it's accurate.
In regards to data, I think I know the answer to this. Well, I've got an opinion of what my answer is to this question. In your opinion, what is the most important piece of data beyond the name?
Well, for me, it's mobile number.
Yeah, I agree. Mobile number. It used to be email. Everyone's like, if you get an email,
If you get the email address, you're away. But
I don't
that's
know.
it's become a wee bit spammy in that email space now. And I mean, I'd see a lot of clients, and you have a look at their email log, and they'll have 1,397 emails that they haven't even opened yet. And you're looking at that going as how much information has been sent in email form that people are not even reading. So yeah, I truly believe mobile number is
How
probably the key.
how weird is that? In that, I remember a long period of my time where I would not leave an email unread.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't have that little red number in a circle, that white number in a red circle, sitting there saying you've got 10 unread emails. I would write. I have 1,000, but
Yeah.
also I'm finding email is a little bit unreliable. Like the filters now for perceived spam
Mhm.
have gone almost. They've almost overreached.
Yeah.
I told you earlier today about, I missed out on a big piece of work because the person who sent me the email from a company I've been dealing with for 10 years, so the domain that the email came from is friendly to my mailbox for 10 years, but this person was new and had connected an extra file. And so my filter just went bang, potential risk, hit it
Spam.
into junk. I missed out
Yeah.
on quoting for the work. I'm like,
Okay.
what
Shit.
happened? But if I'd got it on text message,
Yeah.
I'll never leave a text message unread.
No.
Anyway.
So that's where making sure you've got the data, making sure you've got enough, and actually making sure that it's accurate.
So moving into your next one, which is prospecting skill and the volume of prospecting that you do.
Yep. Yep.
I'm assuming that you're now going to be saying that people need to start prospecting differently to what they did 3 or 4 years ago, which was predominantly email, and
Yep.
start being smarter with text message.
Yep.
And SMS, because there is a guy over here, Lee Woodward, who's a big real estate trainer over here. He trains in New Zealand as well. He's got all this automated text message stuff going on. Like he was showing me the other day, keyword here, keyword there, and you get into all these funnels and sequences. Like it was crazy impressive.
Yep. Yep. And you see, this is the piece now about, well, you've got to have some prospecting systems within your business. So have you got them? What's your level of skill in terms of how you prospect and how good you can connect with people? And also what's the volume of how much you're actually doing? So that's the piece for me. It's just so important to be able to go, hey, that area of my business, am I doing enough? But am I good at it enough? And if not, get some help, get some training on that, because that's a key assessment.
Who's the best trainer for prospecting? You. That's it. Get Darren, guys. Look at what he does. He's been so busy. We haven't done a podcast for nearly 3 months. I don't even know what episode we're up to. It's been that long. And then here was this poor podcast, thought it was going to be adopted out to some other family because no one was nurturing it. I lived the life of a single parent. He left me with the baby.
Oh. Oh.
You in pain?
Oh.
All right. So skill and volume. What are you talking? How often are you hitting your database?
Yeah, totally.
How often are you hitting them?
So this is the piece where you've got to do this, right? I'm asking you to put a score from 1 to 10, okay, based on what you self-assess you to be at. But then I'm asking you to say, well, what's industry best practice and what are the best in the industry doing? What's their number? Because as soon as you start comparing this,
what is it?
9. So if you're not, my view is if you're not a 9 or a 10 in the area of prospecting with skill and volume, these days you will get left behind, because everybody now is starting to go, this area is such a critical area of all businesses, and their ability to be able to connect with a network, be able to develop those relationships, show skill in terms of building those connections, and then doing it enough at a high volume level to be able to create the business you need is just a critical piece of work now. So I get people to self-assess on this, and they'll give me, Darren, I'm probably a 4 or 5. And, I could probably do this area better. And then I'll say to them, so how's your, your annual revenue looking, or what's your annual sales number looking like? And they'll go, oh, Darren, it's terrible. Like, we're really struggling at the moment, Darren. We're not getting sales done. And, and then I compare that answer to their prospecting, and I'm like, I can see why,
So I asked you a specific question. How much and how often? Like what are we emailing out? What are we texting? And I suppose it was a bit of an unfair question because I was trying to sort of get an actual corner. But here's what I do is I find who I perceive to be doing better or the best.
Yep.
I like to learn from the best.
Yep.
I find them and I subscribe to their emails. I subscribe to their prospecting database.
Yep, very good.
And then you get a first-hand seat in how often they do it and the style of stuff that they do.
And then if that's who you're up against, right? If that's who you're up against, and now you're judging yourself against that, you can position yourself, right? You can straight away now start to position yourself as, what do I need to focus on to get myself up to what could be classed as industry best practice or your toughest competitor?
Yeah, and then it just becomes a battle of content.
Mate. Yep. That's a very cunning plan. Good job.
Networking. This is your favorite. Oh, Mr. Man of the People. He loves this.
Well, this is the piece, right? Because how many people do you see out there today? They make one phone call. G'day, Jonathan. How you going? Look, I'm a real estate agent in the particular patch. I'm really keen on doing an appraisal for you. Are you thinking you're selling? You go, no. Actually, no, I'm not really interested. And they go, okay, thanks very much. Bye. Click. And then never call the person back again. So it's like the ability for us to be able to create a networking machine in our businesses that starts to have honest, clear, good conversations with people that not necessarily about your service or your product. It's actually more about actually understanding them as a customer on your database. So for me, this area of networking within your target groups is just an important. And again, you say this to people and, no, Darren, I'm probably a 3 or 4. I might be a 5. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if you're not an 8 in this area, you're really going to struggle for hunting the business, right?
Now, I know you don't mind making phone calls, but man, if there was ever someone built for a live networking event, like a press the flesh type of guy, oh, my little mate over there in New Zealand cracks out his higher than normal heeled shoes and walks in about a foot taller. You love it, don't you? You love it.
Well, I just go like the ability to be able to meet new people, develop relationships with people that you know them, they know you, you've got a belief in actually that what you do is really going to help them. They know that you're in it for the right reasons. I just think it's a really great way to be able to build your networks around. It's just such a good thing to do if you want to grow success.
What's your mindset in there? Because you are a master of it. Because there's no sell in there. Tell us, give us a little insight into, you got the bow tie on, you got the fancy funny shirt, you got the tuxedo with the really bright inside lining. Just hey, like
it's to hide the watches.
Oh, yes. You've usually got an oversized watch somewhere too.
Yeah, always got to have one of those. The piece for me, and this is where I find it really funny, actually, because you go, what is the secret? Well, I'll tell you, my view is actually, I just love people. I actually just enjoy catching up, meeting, and having a conversation with different people. I'm not looking for a sale. I just want to have a conversation and say, hey, what are you doing? How you going? And tell me a bit more about your story and ask good questions. Ask actual good questions about what they're talking about. Because as soon as you do that, they actually think you're interested.
Were you the type of kid at school that knew all the teachers? You just go and chat to all the teachers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because all your mates were too boring, so you needed more conversation.
No, it's just can I help?
Yeah.
What can I do? It always help you. It always help your grade.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love watching you work. I on the other hand don't like people. No, that's not true. Not true. Not true. Just a joke.
You
Fella,
do
take a
like people. You're very good.
joke. Take a joke. All right. What are we up to? Sector knowledge.
Yeah.
All right. Sector knowledge. So brush
So I
up
just
on
go,
it.
whatever industry you're in, how good is your sector knowledge for that particular industry? So are you highly knowledgeable about the industry, about what's happening, about the data, about the numbers, about the products, the suppliers? Are you really across that level of knowledge? Because sometimes I'll say to people again, when you want growing your community or growing your networks, you got to have a really high level of knowledge in your products, and to be able to get out there and actually have conversations with people to show that you really do know your stuff and have got good insights, just makes it so much quicker to build those connections with those clients. And I just go, right now, I think a lot of people sort of try and off the cuff it or wing it. And in fact, now I'm coming back to a point now where I'm going, that actually has to be learnt much, much stronger, because I was actually talking to some people earlier in the week, and they said to me, Darren, look, we're just really good at what we're doing, and we just like, we listen to the customer and we pretty much just wing it. And I just know now the highest performers in the industry are absolutely much more focused now on knowing the level of detail that they need. So I think that sector knowledge now has gone up 2 or 3 gears, definitely.
I agree. And here's why. Because I think the customer's level of knowledge has gone up. Right?
Yep. Good boy.
We're in an era of information overload.
Yep.
Like, you can become an expert in almost anything and read up on it within
days.
Yep. And
Yep.
I go and speak at schools about how to do a TEDx or how to public speak.
Yeah.
And the teachers, you get some of them like, oh well, they should be focusing on maths and science. Like, no. In the next generation, they're going to have access to all the information equally that they need. They're going to have computers just giving them the answers. So the ones who can present it the best are going to be the ones who win. So I think in regards to this sector knowledge, if you try and fake it, you're gone.
You're gone.
You're gone straight away, because someone could just go to the bathroom,
Google
on their phone, come back, no, mate,
you're wrong.
You're bullshitting us. You're out of the room. See you later. But then on top of that, I think in terms of sector knowledge, and I haven't looked at the rest of your list, but you also have to be able to present it.
Yep. Very good. Yep.
It's not just having it; it's how you package it and deliver it.
We'll talk about that one. We'll talk about that one at number 6.
Oh, sorry, I didn't read your list. Now the photo you sent me is a bit blurry. I thought it said something.
Hold on. I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight here into the Pratley household, because when you say the ability to go out of the room and check your phone and get the exact answer, right now in our household, we've just put in Alexa. So we've got Alexa as sitting on the kitchen bench. No matter what the argument is right now, or who thinks what it is, all of a sudden you hear, Alexa, can you please tell us what and the answer is right there. So, I'm just saying now that, when it comes to being that specialist, having that specialist knowledge, you really do have to know your stuff. You can't fake it. You can't wing it. You've got to put the time in to really know it. So,
a really interesting point, though, the difference between your household and mine, because we've got Siri, and all we get is, I'm not going to say it because I'll set it off. It'll be, hey, Siri, play fart noises. Yeah, that's what we get.
Ip12 by fart sound effects now playing.
Oh, that's gold. So good.
And what Siri does, because Siri's quite sneaky, she'll sit silent for a little bit. Then, can you hear those? Hey, Siri, turn it up.
Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so having that sector knowledge for me is really, really important. I think now, so self-assess, how good am I? Again, if you're not above a 7, I think you're going to put some work in. If you're languishing in those 3, 4, 5s, you really got to get your number above 7 there, and think about what your competitors' skill set is in that space. So that's a good one.
I agree.
Nice. That's terrible.
Hey, Siri, stop playing fart noises.
Oh, my God. I didn't even know it did that. I'll have to go and check later on this one.
You can get
Right. Okay.
You can get your kids tonight. You'll be the coolest dad in
I
town.
know. That's fantastic. Okay, next one is number 5, which is seen as a trusted advisor. And we've talked about this heaps before.
Yeah.
I'm not going to really go into too much depth on this one, but now
don't try too hard.
I think,
I think
you've got to be.
Don't try too hard.
You've got to be the trusted advisor now. You've got to be able to give clients an understanding that you understand their needs or understand their position, and then be able to create the solution in their best interests or for their best outcome. And I think that now is just being emphasized more and more. So are you seen as a trusted advisor in your community or in your sector? Probably Darren, I'm a 5. Well, you've really got to get that up again to over 8, because people these days are going to do business with those that are really going to provide that extra.
I've been dealing with a lot of people in the finance sector at the moment.
Yeah, good one.
And I've been reviewing how they actually communicate with new clients.
Yep.
Because some are doing well and others are doing really bad. But at the moment, like the amount of people refinancing home loans and looking for cash and trying to free up cash and equity or whatever, like they're as busy. But there are some who are super busy and some who aren't. And assessing the ones who aren't all comes down. I tell you, this is the 100% secret. The ones who are successful listen, and the ones who don't just keep talking to stop there being any silence in the room.
Yep.
Be comfortable in silence.
And mate, this is so true, because do you know what a good trusted advisor does is actually listens to what the customer need is and then builds the solution, not has the pre-planned solution regardless of the customer need. And I tell you what, I actually think financial services being probably one of the very best industries to get their act together in this space, because they've actually, quite a lot of those sectors have actually been quite well regulated. So because the regulation's been there, they've actually put a lot of the systems in place to make sure that you really are being seen as the trusted advisor by listening to and identifying customer need before you make a financial recommendation. So yeah, it's a really key one for me, and right now it's a good one to be thinking about.
We're our financial industry folk. Come and pay Darren and I money to help you do better.
Well, it's a sector, man, that's just got heaps of growth opportunity in it. And I certainly think with the work that we do that it's very appropriate for financial services. So definitely, and sort of for my background.
Well, it's also one of those things that captures the attention of the world.
Oh, totally.
Real estate does, and money does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so if they're not communicating across the tools that are out there now, they're missing out on market share. That's what it is.
Because you and I, as customers, we're actually looking for the people that we work with in terms of helping us manage our financial situations to provide us that expertise, right?
Well, you'd need an army of people to manage your mountain of dollar bills.
Yeah, nice Scrooge McDuck. Right, okay. So let's move on to number 6, because I reckon this is one that you and we work on lots, right?
I'm a 9.
Yeah, you are a 9. You are definitely a 9. Is your ability to be really good at presenting, right? And you said this before, like kids today, I would say I want them to know less, but actually be able to present and to be able to stand up. And I must admit, in my kids' schools, and I think yours will be the same, they do actually now really push the kids to stand up in front of the room and do their speech and tell their story and present some work to the wider group, which I just go is fantastic, because, in my day, we got to do maybe a speech a year where you stood up in fear for 3 minutes and talked about your rabbit. And you're in a situation where you look at it and go, actually, those are the core skills that you're going to need nowadays. And you've got to be able to present so well.
Oh, and can we just have a round of applause for me actually making it onto the scorecard, ladies and gentlemen? It's taken me number 6 to score anything above 0. Database volume accuracy, prospecting skills, networking, sector. Seen as a trusted advisor, so I've scored a duck on all of those.
You're good there.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, maybe. All right, the last 2.
And you've got great sector knowledge.
Coming home with a rush. No, I like to sell myself short. I'm an under the radar type of guy.
Be careful. Be careful. All right. Good.
Right.
Good.
Sales process systems and management.
Yep.
Look,
Oh, there you
I've
go.
already identified my gap in this part of the market, and I've gone and got myself. I spoke to 3 people who are way better off than me, and they said you have to get this book. It's called Tom Hopkins' Guide to Greatness in Sales. I think it was made in about the 80s because you can send in a coupon out of this book and he'll send you tapes of training. Like tape. Look, not videotapes.
I might have even been late 70s, mate, that book.
Tapes, like cassette tapes. So that's okay. I'll get the cassette tapes and then I've got to go somewhere to try and find a cassette player to play the tapes on. But anyway, Tom Hopkins, he's getting me all up and about in the sales game. Systems are important though, aren't they?
Because this is especially from the day the client says, yes, I'm going ahead, and they sign, right? So from that point right the way through till the day that they receive the product, service, or there's an after sales service component, that you have a clear system and a process that is carefully mapped out and is followed, and checklist, so that that whole process is consistently managed and we make sure we get a best possible outcome. So in your business right now, have a think about it. How much is checklist? How much is actually process driven, or how much of it is actually requiring you to remember what's next? And I mean, I've get a lot of people now that say to me, Darren, it's probably again 5 or 6. Some cases it's a 3 or a 4. And realistically, again, we need these to be a 7, like 7 to 8 in terms of process. And in fact, this is one of the areas you should be able to get to 10, because it's actually more system and prescribed notation of exactly what your checklist looks like. So you should actually be able to get this to an easy 9 just by documenting out what you do.
Yeah, and I reckon they're pretty easy to pick these people. You find a salesperson who is stressed, and I'll show you a salesperson who doesn't have systems.
Good work, mate. That's it. 1,000%. 1,000%.
Oh, and easy to pick them.
And when people say to me, Darren, I'm stressed out and I'm so busy, the first thing I say is, where's your systems? Where's your processes? And that's the big thing, man, that they, you get three opportunities and they start spinning out, and I go, well, that's just because you need to have a better system to manage it. It's so important.
They start juggling 3 different balls and they're all different shapes and sizes.
You got it.
It just becomes so hard. So there's no pattern, no rhythm.
That's it.
And the final one, negotiation and closing, point 8.
Mate, this is it. This I see as an absolute car crash in many times, right? Because in so many businesses, they identify, like, let's just say you got great database, you prospect well, you do good networking, your content, you're seen as the trusted advisor, you've got a good presentation. The customer goes, yeah, okay, let me have a think about it and I'll come back to you, and never heard from again. And you sit there and you go, you've got to have that ability to negotiate and close and get the commitment to from the customer so that they go ahead with the transaction. And again, that's a skill. That is a learned skill, and it's something that you have to practice to actually get good at. And I see so many salespeople learn so many great negotiation, lessons. But the only problem is they learn them when there's a $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 commission attached to it, when they probably could have done that learning in a training room or done some practice with a colleague in the office, so that they don't have to make the balls up or the stuff up when it comes to closing the opportunity.
I suffer closing resistance. I don't know what it is.
Well, you don't want to close it.
No, I want to close it, but I always wait for them to say, hey, we want you.
Well, are we doing this? Are we going to go ahead? This looks really good. I reckon we should do this. Look, if I was in your shoes, I think I'd probably do this, because this actually, for the price, this is a really good idea.
Oh, no, you feel it. I'm touching my chest for those listeners. I'm like, oh, Darren's made me feel uncomfortable. Might need to use my safe word.
Look, I've looked.
But can you understand that some people do suffer this? And my grandfather used to say to me all the time, if you don't ask, you don't get. Right? And Yeah, I had 7 or 8 cousins. It was like, oh, how come he always gets the whatever? And my grandfather said, because he'd ask. He'd come up
Yep.
respectfully, not annoyingly. He wouldn't whinge. He'd just come up and ask. So he gets it. Well, you're
But
trying to
this
be
is
sneaky and go around the
yeah.
back and wait for something, for a moonshot to work or whatever it is. So I suppose, does it come down to that? Just confidently and respectfully asking.
Can I say negotiation? If you take that one topic of negotiation, there's about 35 different negotiation tactics and strategies that you can use, right? So, because there's such a big group of negotiation strategies, most people just say the word negotiation like there's only one method or one way of doing it. But what you've got to do is you've got to build your quiver with enough arrows of different methods of negotiation so that you actually find the right one to be able to shoot at the right time to close the deal. Because sometimes you're right. Some customers are like, if you push me, I am actually going to throw you out the door. So that's when we revert back to your skill as a trusted advisor. And number 5 of going, if you're getting those signals where the deal isn't naturally happening, then go back to the advice piece, go back to your sector knowledge and position it in such a way that the customer is more open to you saying, hey, I think this is the right product. How about we progress this?
Clever. You see, because you say negotiation, I see people changing their whole conversation, their whole demeanor. Oh, this is great. Trusted advisor can help you do this and this. We'll get growth here. We'll get success here. Bang, 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 bang. Okay, now let's talk about the deal. Zim, zam, but zoom, become someone else.
Totally.
And all of a sudden, it's all on the table and there's all to play for. And
now we're custard.
Isn't as smooth, and you feel like, oh, what's your price? I'm not sure. Should I go higher, lower? Like, you know.
And that's practice. Honestly, that is practice. The only way you get good at that is to do it in a training environment and practice so you get confident at it and you feel really good about actually asking the customer to go ahead. Look, I've analyzed your situation. I know the best thing for us to do here to help you get through this is to buy one of these or to have one of these. I want to help you get one of those so you don't have this problem anymore. Let's get this to happen.
But let's deal with our consultants. I understand. Yeah, I get that 100%. Let's help our consultants out for a little bit, because probably the biggest hurdle in negotiations is the little dance that's done around price.
Yep.
How much is it going to cost? Well, what's your budget?
Yep.
How much is it going to cost? No. What's your budget?
Yeah.
Look at that. Like, what do we do?
The number one thing you have to do is you have to work out what the value of the solution is to the customer. So if you work out what the value of the situation is to the customer, then it'll start to tell you what the price needs to be. If you're fixing a $10,000 problem or a $100,000 problem or $1 million problem, your fee changes because of the scale of the problem, right? So if you're just seen and if you're just seen as someone who's going to give them a help or some advice or just fix a small problem, or you're just going to turn up in an office and do some presentation because they need to do that for part of their CPD points or their training points, right? If you're seen as that, they'll want that price as low as you can. But if they've lost 10 deals in the last month, which has cost them $300,000 worth in commissions, then the very next person that can come in and help turn that negotiation strategy into a winner for them is worth probably $100,000. My job is done.
Hold on. I'm just logging into how to become a negotiation expert. $100,000. We'd all love a bit of that. But I think the break has been good for us, Darren. I think we've come back and delivered some solid points on this episode.
Mate,
some real pieces for people to get away with. But let them be the judge.
This is the best self-assessment and I use it heaps right now. The reason why I'm using it now is because it actually gets people to start thinking about the components of their business. Where do they need to put some focus, get some work done and actually improve? And you think about it. If you were a 7 or an 8 in every one of those, 1 to 8. So if you're a 7, your score was 7 to 8 in every one of those, just just imagine how good your business is. And then if I turned around and said to you, okay, pick 2 or 3 key areas where I want you to be a 10, that means industry leading, what would you do? And as soon as people get their heads around this, it really changes their approach. And in a challenging time we've got now, that's what we need, right? So it's just a good tool that I think, and especially with you and me talking through it and going through those different topics, it can really help people sort of get a bit of a plan on what they need to do in the next 30 to 60 days.
Well, my brain's spinning already. I could do a social media content one of these.
Totally.
I better steal it before you copyright it.
Yeah, look, mate, my content is available for you and your clients free of charge anytime.
And the good listeners. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure.
So good.
Dueling with you across the Tasman on the #1 podcast somewhere between Australia and New Zealand. Thank you for listening. Thank you for waiting for this episode to come back up. And for those who are lucky enough to hang around, I think they're going to find themselves with an absolute doozy in this one. Let's not leave the gap so long next time. I know you're busy, and I'm busy too. We've both been busy. I think that we could record these in the middle of the night, in the dark, in our pajamas, and people still won't care. Oh, that's all right. You're wearing your pajamas. Sorry about that. You walked into that one.
My job is done.
This has been Blink, episode somewhere around, I don't know, season 2, episode something. And we'll catch you next time.
See everybody. Take care. See you soon. Cheers, mate.